This day is born to you in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Christ, the Lord. I usually talk about how Advent, the season that leads up to Christmas, is wibbly-wobbly and timey-wimey. It's 4 whole Sundays where we, at the same time, look back 2,000 years ago to the day when the God who is love will come into the world as one of us, as Jesus, the Christ, among a dispossessed people in an occupied land, to new parents who can't find a decent place to stay the night, to redeem all of creation. And it is the season when we look ahead to when Christ will come again to usher in God's reign of love in a world that has been redeemed and restored and made whole. The past and the future all together at once, it's wibbly-wobbly, it's timey-wimey. But tonight is Christmas Eve, which might even be wibbly-wobblier. It might be timey-wimier. I mean, we are here to celebrate the birth of the God who is love as Jesus Christ. Tomorrow. This is Jesus' birthday, Eve. And it is a little unusual to celebrate a birthday the night before. But it gets weirder. Because December 25th is probably not Jesus' birthday, just statistically. See, early Christians, they didn't really care when Jesus was born. They knew that he lived. They knew that he preached. They knew that he taught. They knew that he healed. They knew that he died. They knew that he stepped out of the tomb. And that was important. And so they presumed if he did all of that, he must have been born at some point. But they weren't really concerned about the day. And then after a while, as people do, people started asking for the gaps in the story to get filled in. Folks started saying, we'd really like to hear some stories about when Jesus was a kid. So they started telling stories about when Jesus was a kid, none of which made it into the Bible. And people started saying it would be great to hear about when Jesus was born. And it would be great to have a day that we could say Jesus was born. Let's get a date on the calendar. We can celebrate it every year the night before. And there was this idea about cycles of completion. There was a story that was going around that prophets always died on their birthdays. Happy birthday, prophets. And Jesus was so much more than a prophet, so he must have died on the very day that he was conceived. I mean, years later, not the very day, but the same day of the year. And so when you math that out, when you figure out when Passover was in the year that he died, and you figure out the math, and you count back, you end up on December 25th. So we're a little wibbly-wobbly. We're a little timey-wimey. We are celebrating the birth of our Savior on the night before the day that probably isn't his birthday. There's some beauty in that. There's some weirdness, don't get me wrong, but there is some beauty in that. Because it's easy to get caught up in this idea that the important thing about Christmas is that it's Christmas, and that it's on a specific day or a specific season, that's when the Christmas spirit gets to be there. The rest of time, the rest of the year, is for the ordinary stuff of the year. Regular life. and Christmas gets to be small. But we know that the important thing about Christmas is this story that can't be confined by time, this story that doesn't sit in one night or 12 days or however long it is, apparently between like Thanksgiving and Return Day after Christmas. This story about the God who is love, with no footnotes and no fine print, looking at a broken world with mercy and compassion, and choosing to step into that world, to come into that world as one of us, like really one of us, among a dispossessed people in an occupied land, to new parents who can't find a place to stay for the night. On this night, God is born. God is picked up and cleaned off. God has some food. God is burped. God is laid down to sleep in a manger. And that sounds sacrilegious. How can we say something like that about God? But that is the bananas, bonkers claim of Christianity, that God became one of us and everything that means. Everything that means, even the bits that aren't so nice. God's been through that. And what's more, God didn't come down as a king or an emperor, as a politician or a pundit, as a general or a titan of business or a billionaire. There's a reason I keep repeating that dispossessed people in an occupied land. God comes into the world as one of us in the worst circumstances. And not just on Christmas Eve, not just on Christmas Day, but certainly on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and not just 2023 or so years ago, but tonight. Tonight, this very night, right now, in fact, God is sleeping on a park bench or in a homeless shelter. God is buried under rubble or hoping for bombs to stop. God is making a long journey and crossing rivers to try to get to a new home. God is wondering if their EBT card is going to get them through the end of the month and into a new year. Wherever someone is homeless, God is there. Wherever someone is hungry, God is there. Wherever someone is thirsty, God is there. Wherever someone is naked, God is there. Wherever someone is in prison, God is there. God is in county lockup tonight. Wherever someone is a stranger, God is there. Wherever someone is sick, God is there. Wherever someone is in need, wherever someone is searching for human kindness, God is there. And it is true that in a few months we will celebrate another kind of holiday. We will celebrate a day where God steps out of a tomb. We will read scriptures about God being a king. As the year goes on, we will talk about God's power and God's sovereignty. that God called the worlds into being and made all things that are, and will judge the living and the dead with compassion and mercy and grace. But right now, as much as we are utterly, absolutely, and totally dependent on God for all that we are and all that we have, right now is the day to remember that God is dependent on someone who will offer a room. On someone who will say, I don't have a room, but there's the stable. There's the manger. There are your parents. There are some shepherds. In this moment tonight, God is a baby. And I don't know if you know this about babies, but they need a lot of attention and a lot of care and a lot of love and a lot of support. So it turns out to children and adults and mature people and everyone. And it's wibbly-wobbly and it's timey-wimey, but tonight and tomorrow night and every night, whenever we do for someone else, whenever we care for someone in need, whenever we feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, welcome the stranger, house the homeless, do whatever, whenever we act as someone who will give up a stable or a room, whenever we act as a shepherd, whenever we act as, I don't know, some kid who shows up to play the drums, whenever we act in love towards someone who needs love, we are acting in that love towards God. And that can be every night. That can be every day. That can be every moment. Christmas is not confined to now, but it spreads. And if it does that, we might just fill the whole world with love. We might just fill the whole world with generosity. We might just fill the whole world with hospitality. We might just fill the whole world with mercy. We might just fill the whole world with grace until it is full of all those things. And if we do that, and God does that, and we all join together in doing that, then this whole world might just be redeemed, might just be restored, might just be made whole, might become a little bit Christmas. And that would be good news indeed.